Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today we are talking with Nanci Reed. Nanci is practical spirituality for self-healing. She's a sacred embodiment coach, author, intuitive amplifier, and Pilates instructor. She believes in the impossible things. Happily ever living is her signature process. And I always want to say after I get there, I'm a big fairy tales fan. I love that you put it that way, because it's so important that it speaks to me of being in the present rather than the happily ever after is like always someday. So welcome to the show. And
thank you so much, Jill.
how did you get started? Tell us your story.
Oh my goodness. Well, yes. So my signature process is called Happily Ever Living. And my first book that I wrote this past spring was called Happily Ever Now. And so exactly what you were saying about a modern twist on the real fairy tale, right? Which is that we are the heroine of our own story. And so rather than waiting for that time after, for something to come together, for somebody to validate us, for another check off of our checklist to happen in order for us to begin living our best life, why not choose now instead? And so that's really the foundation for all the different hats that I wear and all the different work that I do. And I guess if I was going to say, where did it start, would be probably childhood, because I was one of those daughters and sisters and friends and everything that came into this world with having an ability to pick up on energy, with what we would say now is empathic, right? But when I was growing up, that was something that wasn't really talked about very much, and certainly not in my friend circles in the preschool or the kindergarten or anything like that. So I couldn't really explain how that I came in to being knowing things that I hadn't learned yet. Knowing how to anticipate things in certain spaces, like I could feel the energy before I went inside. And yet there was this part of me that knew that, again, this wasn't something that everybody was going through, or at least that they weren't willing to talk about. And so I figured I better keep it close to myself too, and do my best to become a chameleon on every level, where I would use this ability to pick up on energy and to anticipate things and to adjust myself, but to actually hide in plain sight with it rather than share it and be visible about it.
I have a question about that. And it's all right if you're not comfortable answering, but did you ever find that it impacted your health, keeping that information to you? So
yeah, absolutely. I had many, many, many health challenges as a child, and I still have. Anytime that I find myself wanting to play small again, or that my inner critic, inner perfectionist, like I call in my book, sneaks up, then certainly I have health issues that present, whether they be emotional health, spiritual health, or physical health, or all of the above. And absolutely, I was constantly missing school as a child. I remember the teachers even asking my mother, they'd be like, is she really sick this much? And, and everything. And my mom, to her credit, she knew that it was challenging for me to be around different energies. And she didn't quite understand on the same level of having that experience, but she could see that I was distressed by others in such a magnified way compared to, let's say, like my brother, right? And so she was very kind and compassionate and meeting me where I was. So even though she was on one hand telling me to go ahead, do your best, be like everybody else and everything, that on the other hand, she knew there were days that I needed to recharge, that I needed to just go in kind of to my little cocoon. And this is before I learned about grounding or anything else like that. And so I was just this open vessel, basically, for all the feelings, for all the emotions, good and bad, in around me. And I had no way to really express that other than in my diary. I would write things, I would try to sing songs. I was really good at performing and taking on these different characters and things. But I never really felt like I could really talk about the dreams that I was having or the feelings that I was having that didn't make sense on the level of the world.
That's so interesting. I've been empathic a large part of my life as well, and never really understood what it was. And I too would have my stomach was like,
Mm-hmm.
and my bowels, I was like constantly having problems with them. And I lost my appendix, and I think it was partly due to that when I was young, because I didn't know what it was, and we moved around a lot, and I was like, I didn't really have any roots, and my family was kind of disconnected, even though we were connected, but we it's hard to explain. But anyway, it it I can remember having physical issues because of that. And I remember the feeling that I would have. It's kind of interesting. It was interesting to me anyway. So back to you. Your
No.
book, Happily Ever Now.
Now, yes.
Is that right? Now.
Yes.
Okay. So when did you write it? What's it about?
Well, it took me 7 years, but really a lifetime of wanting to be an author. And again, always waiting for the after. Everything came together after I wrote the perfect story, after I got the right contract, after, all these different things. But going through a few different experiences in my life, while right before actually I decided to write this book. And I had tried to write books numerous times before. I'll just say that. Like I have so many unfinished drafts. It's kind of ridiculous. And I have even like 20 pages, 30 pages, 40 pages, like all these. And my inner perfectionist would sneak up and be like, this isn't ready. Nope. You can do better than this. Or nope, this isn't the story. And so really this book was about me not only writing it, but also living it as I was writing it and getting to share. And so the full title is Happily Ever Now, Not After Everything Else is Perfect. And it's a gentle guide for overcoming the paralysis of perfectionism by embracing our innate guidance. And so again, we teach best what we most need to learn. And that was certainly my experience. And so that's the book, kind of as an overview. It's a compilation of a memoir. So I share my personal experiences coming into these awarenesses, as well as sharing individual clients that I've worked with, some testimonials from them. And then also I have a complete program that is called the Mindset Reset, which is a 7-day sort of primer for the bigger program, which I usually offer as a small group online course with women. And I included it in the book this time, and it's called Happily Ever Now. And it's a 12-week self-study journey. And you can repeat it as many times as you want. It's sort of similar to The Artist's Way in the fact that while there are these 12 weeks to explore the different topics, you can repeat it anytime you want and you can go back to it. So it's really a book that can live with you as you are living your happily ever now. And it's able then to allow you to trust yourself, to know that if that book has found you, that there is a reason for it. And that part of that reason is about allowing yourself to experience this freedom of living in the now and really allowing yourself to dream bigger and to actually experience yourself as valuing yourself at the level of your biggest dream before the dream itself has come true. And that was such a game changer for me. And I've seen that as such a powerful shift with my clients as well, that it's something I wanted to highlight in this book. And then really from there, if you want to work with me privately or something, you certainly can. I do offer group sessions. I am completing my first online course as well as sort of an extension of the book, and that's called Living Happily Ever Now. And that is going to be a compilation that is available online in addition. So there's all these different things that you can do with the book. But again, I wanted to offer it with a complete offering rather than saying that, okay, now you read this story and hey, you've got to do some kind of upsell here in order to actually experience an application of the work that I'm talking about. And so instead, this is the chance for the reader to really affirm their decision to choose this book, to join them on their journey. And then however it's going to help them on their specific path, then there are numerous different ways for them to go from the last page.
That's awesome. I like the way that you put that all together. And so you, from what I'm gathering from what you said, you have online group coaching, you have one-on-one coaching,
Mm-hmm.
you have a group as well that's just like
Mm-hmm.
anybody can join.
That's right. It's called Sparkle Circle on Facebook.
Okay. What? Not Happily Ever Now?
I know. Well, Sparkle Circle, yeah. If you read the book, you'll see the significance of the word sparkle. It's very, very, very pivotal on my journey.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that for the audience to catch in your book. So go get her book. It'll be in the show notes. The link will be in the show notes below. So what does an intuition amplifier do?
Well, really, that is for me to be able to hold the space for my client to look within themselves and to remember their own sound of their own inner voice, their own intuition, their own inner knowing. Whatever word fits for them is going to be the one that is going to meet them, right? And so by an amplifier, what I mean by that is that I hold the space. I have that constancy to create that safety for them to look within themselves. So it's not me giving them my intuition about things. It's me listening to my own intuitive guidance and then asking the questions that allow them to pose their own conversation with their own intuition, and then to amplify that and start to infuse that into all of their experiences so that they become the constant in all of the change. And that actually is what makes things feel and be different, is finding that inner consistency and trusting yourself enough and beginning to own that and then showing up as her in everything and with everyone that you interact with.
Yeah, how your mind works is like how your life goes in my experience. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of mind shifting and mind reshaping, rewiring. And
yes, but with gentleness, not with judgment.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because we tend to judge ourselves very harshly, and it's really important, I think, to have somebody who's able to hold the space for you to look at these things and not judge yourself over them, but to give you tools to actually facilitate the change that needs to happen in your own head before changes will happen around you. There's lots of science out there. You've got to, you've got to be the change that you want to see happening.
No,
You have to
absolutely.
embody it now
And my
for yourself.
background with a master's degree in psychology, so understanding it on the one level, chemically, as well as the different types of issues that we face within that, and then also the coaching, right? Putting that all together, and then being a longtime student and teacher of A Course in Miracles, a spiritual thought system that's based on psychology too, it's kind of all infused into everything that I do. And that's exactly the truth, is that we need to be willing to make those shifts. But if we attack ourselves, or we shame or blame or compare ourselves when we're looking, right, and so that we're in the space of judgment, then we really can't be in that space of, like I like to say, kindness and curiosity, where we're seeing it all so that we can heal it all without denial. But there needs to not be that lens of judgment and self-judgment and preconceived judgment, because then we're limiting actually the outcome of self-healing, and we're keeping ourselves apart from that experience of self-healing rather than being a part of it.
Just on the physical level, our thoughts always release chemicals into our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Our emotions do, and our thoughts do, because our thoughts generate emotions, and emotions are just a chemical reaction that happens, and it triggers a response in your body. And if you're constantly judging yourself, you're releasing one kind of chemical reaction that's contrary to being able to feel. And it's really important that you start learning how to develop those chemical reactions in your body that are positive, that move you forward and inspire you to do things and take action, even when it might be kind of scary to wander into some of these lanes. But that's where the future can be so happily ever now, if you can just like shift into feeling it and having those experiences in your body become the more natural, automatic spot that you land in, rather than the judgmental, critical place that so many live in, because they just don't know that there's a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that, as sad as it is to say, it's pretty easy to be critical with ourselves. It's pretty easy to be judgmental. We don't have to look very far to do that. It's kind of, it's sad to say, but it's very, very, very true, right? And we're having this honest conversation about this. And that's just it. When you can have a light heart when you're looking at something that may or may not be something you want to continue, then again, it's not that you're denying anything. It's just that you're looking at it with that space of compassion and with curiosity and with gentleness. And so then you're actually willing to get your ego out of the way and to instead invite in the possibilities that previously you believed were limited only by a certain outcome being able to appear, that was either going to be something happening or not happening, right? So when we let go of that instead, and we're aligned with the truth of who and what we are, then we can trust in the outcome meeting us at that truth rather than the limitation.
And we're allowed, and this is kind of new for a lot of people, we're allowed to change. It's okay. It's okay to look at things differently. You might have held on to some belief systems that weren't serving you all that well, but once you let go of that opportunities start opening up for you to explore other things that maybe even like better than hanging on to whatever paradigm you were hanging on to. And it's so fun to move through. This is like,
yeah, it is.
It's like
fun.
The Enchanted Forest. Okay.
And that's just it, right? You're the heroine in your story. So have fun, be curious, like, go back to the choose your own adventure pages of yesteryears, authors and things like that. And realize it's okay. It's okay to be curious, and it's okay to talk about your stumbles. But when you talk about them gently, and when you talk about them as the things they are, which is a classroom, right? Rather than some kind of prison or some kind of thing that's keeping you stuck, then you give other people the permission to talk about their own journey too. And then you find the commonality. And so that's really the whole purpose behind me writing this book is I wanted other women out there, especially heart-centered, empathic, sensitive women, that to know that if it's possible for one of us to embrace being their perfectly imperfect self, that it's possible for all. And that really is true. Whether the form is that you're going to write a book, that you're going to say yes to showing up differently in the PTA meeting, or you're going to, talk differently to your children, or whatever it is, that if you're going to stop waiting for something in the after to give you permission, and instead align with the truth of you and know that you're always worthy of living your own happily ever now. Anytime you're willing to choose it, that is what shifts. And then everything else comes into alignment with that. And no, everything is not going to be perfect, but it will always be perfectly imperfect. And so you can never fail. And that is such a gift when we really look at that, because a lot of times when we're a perfectionist, speaking for myself, what I realized when in writing my book, especially, is that there's this belief pattern that if I can give away my choices to someone or something external to me, then that means I'm off the hook for the outcome. And so I get to preserve my perfection, right? And really, instead, that's not true. I'm not off the hook, right? I did make a decision. My decision was to give away my choice and to give away my power. That is my decision. So it wasn't like I was free from making a decision. I did make a choice. But if I can look at that every outcome has purpose, and that I get to choose what lens to perceive that through, then that changes everything.
It really does change everything. And it changes everything, not just for you, but for those around you.
Mm-hmm.
When you choose to appreciate the imperfections, it allows those around you to be able to appreciate them too. Instead of constantly pointing out how flawed it is, if you can look at it and just appreciate it. The Japanese have this thing about when something breaks, a value breaks, and they glue it back together with gold, then the thing that was broken, that's been repaired, is even more beautiful than the original.
Mm.
And I like to look at things that way when we're talking about, trying to be perfect. There is no perfection in this world.
Mm-mm.
And nothing is ever perfect, and nothing is ever, it's never in the future, and it's never in the past. It's only in the present. We only exist in this moment at any given point in our journey. And this moment exists now, and it exists in the future, and it exists in the past. There's an energy about life that when you start trying to manipulate it and force it to be the way that you believe it's going to be, it causes discontent and disharmony.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think it wouldn't be that way, but it always ends up that way. And you fail to be able to appreciate what actually is.
No, 100%. And there's a core teaching in A Course in Miracles that says ideas leave not their source. And so whether or not you believe that in that framework, you can apply that idea though into your own life, which is that however the intention is that you conceive of an idea, then you're going to see that carried through in the execution of it. And so if you conceive something from a place of limitation or lack or judgment or fear or any of those other things, right, that our inner perfectionist loves to wear, then you're going to see the execution also reflect that. Whereas if you conceive something from a place of love and spaciousness and curiosity and gentleness and kindness, then the execution is also going to reflect that. And so the great thing about that is if you're ever seeing an outcome that you don't like, you can go back and you can tell yourself that, oh, well, then I must just have made a silly choice or a wrong decision here, quote unquote. So let me go back and reset that, right? Or let me go back and look at that with a different perspective. Not even that it was wrong, but just that it was out of alignment with the truth of me, right? So let me go and look at that and see, how can I shift this? Or how can I be curious about what it was that motivated me to do that rather than blame myself for it? But now I can look at it and go, okay, so when that shows up again, I'm going to remember this very gentle conversation I'm having with myself. And if something like this is triggering me or something like this is coming up, I'm going to look at it and go, oh, that's right. I can breathe here rather than make that instant decision. And I can take that pause of purpose and then choose differently. And then let's see if the outcome also is different now that I've made a different place for the initial intention.
I agree with that. And I also think that sometimes you can look at things that have already happened that you may have one reaction to intellectually and reframe it to allow yourself to appreciate it in all its imperfection, to find the lesson, to just appreciate the outcome, whether it was the outcome that you expected or something completely different. If you take the good and bad, the right or wrong out of looking at the event, it allows you to be curious about it and curious about, what it's trying to tell you or show you or teach you. And maybe you don't want to have that experience again, so you make a different decision about the same kind of parameters that will show up again, because they always do. The lessons keep coming back until you figure them out.
No, absolutely true. And that's just it, is that they don't go away, right? Perfectionism doesn't go away because you read my book by any means. And it doesn't go away from writing a book like that either. It just means that when it shows up, I look at it a little differently. Now, does that mean that I don't listen to it? Not always. Sometimes there are things that show up and I go, oh, there's that rabbit hole again. And, like there I am rolling that gutter ball again. But what I've noticed is that when I do become aware of that again, that my judgment of myself is much softer. My return back to that gentleness is a little bit quicker, that it's a little bit less effort too. And so that lets me know that, quote unquote, there are no detours from my path, that everything is my path, and that those experiences are a part of it. Now, maybe with time, quote unquote, even though there is only the now, but maybe with time, linearly, it will seem as though things have become much less grippy and easier. But for now, what I would say is that when I have those experiences, I actually talk about them. And I, I'm very honest with my clients and with other people too, and everything like that, because I want them to know this isn't about being perfect at being not perfect. This is instead about embracing being perfectly imperfect. And so what that means is that we're going to have our highs and our lows, but that, like you said, if you can look at them with neutrality rather than with positive or negative assignments, then you can always see the purpose in them, and you can see that they are a part of your healing rather than apart from it. And that to know that healing isn't linear, so that anything that you are experiencing is going to be infused into all of our aspects that are perceived as part of time. And that is what can be so healing and so empowering.
Yes, and it's definitely circular. could be a spiral, but it's going around and around, and you're gonna recognize things the more times you wander through the experiences, and they get better. It's just like nobody starts out perfect at everything.
No.
Some people are gifted with some things, and they are perfect at it. But those are rare. We call them, I was going to say autistic, but there's another name for it. I can't remember. But they're just gifted. And then they usually lack in other areas of their lives.
Mhm.
They have like moms for those people. In the corporate world, there were like programmers in the 70s, 60s and 70s and in 80s when, that all they could do was like program, and they were just like, they couldn't even bother to shower or wash their clothes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they needed their people.
Yes, very, very, and we all do.
Yeah. And people like you who are coaches that can come along and be their people for them and help them, gently like remind you to walk on this path. It's a little easier. You don't have to wander over there and beat yourself up. That's where the monsters are. There'll be dragons there. To keep with your metaphor of happily ever now.
There you go.
So how do people get in touch with you if they want to work with you, or they want to learn more about you, or just want to join your Facebook group and hang out with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Come hang out. I love connecting. So they can find me on my main website, which is Nanci Reed. So NanciReed.com. They can also find me in the Facebook world. They can either look for my profile name on Facebook under Nanci Reed. They can also find me in the Sparkle Circle, which is my private Facebook community for heart-centered women wanting collaborative and community. And then they can also find me in the Instaverse on Instagram at Happily Ever Living, or at Nanci Ann Reed. And they can find my book at happilyeverNowbook.com as well.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we put all those links in the show notes, so you don't have to write them all down right now. So Nanci, what's the one thing you want to leave the audience with today?
Oh, what I'd like them to know is two things, actually. So one thing is that now is always the perfectly imperfect time to begin living your best life. And to support that, I am offering a new free gift, which is called the Align with Love Self-Healing Gift Set. And so this is a 15-minute guided meditation on inviting more gentleness into your experience, as well as 7 days of self-healing journaling prompts. That is a PDF. So those two things are something that I'm so excited to get to offer. And it's just perfect for this time of year too, about loving yourself and being in that healthy relationship with yourself, with gentleness and curiosity.
Give yourself your own Valentine this year and go find those downloads at Nanci's website. Thanks so much for joining me, Nanci. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much. This is delightful.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at The You World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.